Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing something a little different. We're going to decode just a single week of economic policy in India, and in the process, turn a really dense report into a clear story about a nation on the move.
So how do you manage an economy worth trillions of dollars, right? It's this massive question. And the answer isn't some single sweeping policy. It's actually in thousands of daily decisions. So by zooming in on just 1 week of these moves in India, and we're talking everything from interest rates to AI, we can really start to see the machinery in motion.
And wow, what a week to pick! The story really kicks off with a booming economy. Just look at this number. The Reserve Bank of India projected that GDP for the second quarter of 2025-26 will grow at a blistering 8.2%.
Now, usually, when you see that kind of growth, there's a big catch, right? High inflation. But here's the wild part. Headline inflation for November was an incredibly low 0.71%. That's almost nothing.
You know, this combination of super high growth and super low inflation, it's basically the dream scenario for economists. It's that perfect Goldilocks situation, and it sets the stage for a week of really confident, forward-looking policymaking.
Okay, so let's dive into this strong economic foundation and see what it actually allowed the central bank to do.
And you can just feel the confidence right here in the central bank's own words. They're basically saying, hey, growth looks great, inflation's under control, so we've got some room to maneuver, some space to help the recovery along even more.
So what did they do with that room to maneuver? Well, with inflation so low, the RBI went ahead and cut a key interest rate. All that means is it just got a little cheaper to borrow money. And that acts like a huge green light for the economy. It's a signal to businesses everywhere that says, hey, now's a good time to invest, to expand, to hire.
All right, with that big picture clear, let's look at the first pillar of the week's activity. You can think of it as upgrading the country's economic hardware, and that means a major push in domestic manufacturing.
And this isn't just talk. We're talking about real money, a lot of it. This number, 2 lakh crore rupees, is the actual investment that's been attracted by the government's production-linked incentive schemes. The idea is simple. They're programs that reward companies for making more stuff in India. So this is capital flowing directly into building new factories and production lines.
And this investment isn't just some abstract number on a page. It is translated directly into over 1.2 million jobs. That's a huge, tangible impact on people's lives and, of course, the wider economy.
So the strategy here is pretty clearly twofold. Build it at home and then sell it to the world. They're strengthening their own industrial base while at the same time chasing new markets and making it easier for Indian companies to compete globally.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because it shows you the incredible level of detail involved. For a very common diabetes drug, the government changed the unit of measurement for 2 ingredients from this ambiguous kg per kilogram to a simple kg. It sounds so tiny, right? But if you're an exporter, that removes confusion and makes your life way easier. It's a perfect example of that focus on just making business simpler.
Okay, so we've talked about the hardware of industry. Now let's shift gears and talk about the software, the new rules being written for the absolute cutting edge of technology.
This is one of the biggest, most complex questions facing every single country right now. As AI models learn from huge amounts of copyrighted material, books, art, you name it, how do you balance the need for innovation with the rights of the people who created that stuff in the first place? Well, India is tackling this head-on.
So, instead of waiting around for years of messy court battles, a new government paper is proposing this really innovative solution. It's an attempt to create a unique Indian model that encourages AI development while making sure creators actually get paid fairly. And here's basically how it would work. AI companies get access to copyrighted stuff through a mandatory blanket license, so they avoid thousands of individual deals. Then, a central nonprofit group collects royalties from those developers, and finally, that group distributes the money fairly to the original creators. It's designed to be efficient for the tech folks and fair for the artists.
And this forward-looking approach to regulation isn't just happening with AI. It's extending to other really critical parts of the digital world too.
For instance, India's market regulator, SEBI, is now requiring that all financial websites and apps, where people manage their actual life savings, are fully usable by people with disabilities. That is a powerful move toward digital inclusion, and they've given a clear deadline of March 2026 to get it done. All right, for our last piece, let's look at the constant, essential housekeeping that's needed to keep the whole economic engine running smoothly and safely.
This table is a perfect summary of that fine-tuning process. You can see regulators making these small but vital tweaks. The RBI harmonized some rules for bank accounts to reduce risk. They also mandated more transparent pricing on currency exchange fees. And of course, SEBI pushed forward that accessibility deadline we just talked about, all to promote investor inclusion.
Even tax policy played a part in this calibration. By making a state pollution control board exempt from income tax, the government is sending a clear signal that it's prioritizing and supporting these crucial public service bodies, especially ones protecting the environment.
So, after looking at all these seemingly disconnected things, from AI to export norms to interest rates, what does this busy week really tell us? What's the big takeaway?
Well, it paints a really clear picture of an economy that's firing on all cylinders. It's simultaneously building its physical industrial base, the factory, it's writing the new rules for the digital future, the software, and it's constantly fine-tuning its foundational systems to make sure everything is stable and trustworthy.
This 1 week shows a really determined and proactive effort to keep pace. But for any rapidly growing economy, this remains the central challenge and the ultimate question: